Well, hello everyone, welcome. So today I wanted to touch upon something that I have personally used and benefited quite a bit out of it. I could say it shaped pretty much the second half of my life completely, uh, and plagued the first half of my life completely as well. So what is it? It's nightmares. I am an extremely vivid dreamer. Now I could say that, but earlier the same vivid dreamer was one that was haunted by nightmares all the time. And by nightmares, I just don't mean the ones that happen when you sleep. I mean the ones that are present even when you're awake. You're walking down the road, when you're going about your daily activities, the fears that just pop up from, you know, uh, underneath the subconscious. And while what I'm saying might be a little bit extreme, it's good to know that in some proportion everybody is dealing with it. You know what I mean? Like you're in a meeting or you're with someone and having a conversation, and you're not completely present in the conversation or responding to the person. A lot of the times you're kind of responding from this inner fear that's kind of activating, this thought of something that happened in the past, which is coming up, and it's entering your instincts, it's entering your mental outlook. And when you're responding to the person in front of you, you're not responding to their stimulus, if you will, but more like mm, enacting what uh, this fear or the subconscious pull or the subconscious memory of being hurt before is bringing to you. So a lot of times we hesitate from going after things we love or things we want very deeply, because this subconscious fear, which for me was very extreme, it had gone on till the level of nightmares. But to a large extent, this this pull from the inside is kind of stopping us from going completely outside, into what we really want to love, and go ahead and pursue that and achieve it as well. So, why do I say that nightmares have the biggest potential of finding your passion? It's because of the simple fact that being a nightmare itself, it is creating a polarity inside your being, which is stimulating you to take action. Now, let let me run you through like my story, and probably it gets a little easier for us to come back to this discussion. So for a very long time I was really plagued by nightmares, like even in the waking state, not just at night. Like I would not be able to get into conversations without uh, the things inside me coloring everything, like fears coming up, uh, not letting me express myself freely or even have regular conversations. It would just be like, why is this guy afraid so much? Like, what's he afraid about? Like, I'm not even doing anything. That would generally be the response I would get from the other person. But that's quite miserable. Like, it was quite bad. So the thing which I really got into, because I really wanted to sort it out, was that at that state, I was kind of searching for my artistic expression, because I was doing all kinds of artworks. I've always been in the arts all my life. I've so-called never had a what one would call as a job, like ever. So yeah, I've been in the arts all my life, and so I mean, I used to draw, I used to paint, I used to sculpt, I used to be an artist, and I was also playing guitar. I was also composing, but I wasn't very sure about like what do I take ahead. I'm doing all these things. What do I take ahead? So while these nightmares were kind of happening, one thing I really did realize was they were always happening in sound. Is that I would always hear things, not see things exactly. Like when I'm speaking about the nightmares, the demons, or anything like these, figurines which would scare me, they were never visual. For some people, they are. That's why I like really am emphasizing that really pay attention to the nightmares or pay attention to the fear, even if it's not that extreme. Just pay attention to the fear and pay attention to the medium in which it's bothering you. Pay attention to the medium. The medium is very, very, very important. So these nightmares for me used to always be in sound. There used to be voices, there used to be things moving around, but sonically, like they would pan. Now I'm using musical terms, but earlier I didn't know these. Yeah, so they would actually just pan around my ears, like they would go, yeah, hiss around from the back, and that's the way it would like kind of scare me. Like, or like if yeah, I'm in the middle of a conversation, I would just hear things inside me. I would hear my own subconscious self, maybe laughing at myself and saying that how can you ever achieve this, or how can you ever go ahead and do this? You are so weak. You're so unworthy of it, so to speak. So with all these things coming up, there was a point where it really hit a peak. I remember I was at a meditation center and I was going through a program. I was going through a beautiful 60-day life design program, which I was really into, but I was not able to do it because of this issue. I was just not able to show up because I couldn't sleep at night. I just wasn't able to. I remember like walking out of the place I was sleeping, unable to sleep because the fans on the ceiling felt like they were gonna just come down on me. But again, sonically, it was all always through the sound. The sound of the fan felt as if it's gonna come down and it's gonna encapsulate me. Now it wasn't visual; it was sonic. I went out and ran onto the streets. And even while I was running, because I was trying to get away from it, the cars which were passing by were again screaming at me. They were like, it was as if they were going to enter me and snatch something away. As the cars were going from both the sides, it felt like as if I'm going to come in the middle and get sandwiched. And these are going to, tear me apart and find something inside me which I'm trying to hide or protect. We're all trying to protect something at the core, right? I could feel it that these cars would completely dismantle it. So it was sonically happening. This made me have to meditate. I'm saying have to, not want to, because it was quite extreme. This made me have to meditate to a point where I tried literally all the techniques that there were. I tried a lot of physical techniques, uh, Kundalini, and quite a bit of them. But the one that really stuck with me was the sound meditations. Was when I could tap into like what is happening here and kind of surrender to the sounds itself, surrender to these hellish arena that was around me always. Once I kind of got into that, what I could feel is I could feel the movement of the nightmares. In that I mean that okay, so these two cars are gonna come in this example. These two cars are gonna come and tear me apart, right? Like one's coming forward and the other's going backward. Now they want to come and they want to tear me apart from the insides and expose something that's inside. Now, again, I'm stressing on this medium is because if you do not tap into your medium, you would not be able to break it down that well. You will not be able to solve the puzzle. That is why I stress so much on the medium. If you're a visual person, do not do this. Please focus on the visual aspect of it. Try to visually do it. For me, this was sonically happening, and hence I'm constantly referring to that. And as these cars were so-called, going in the opposite direction, I could see that they were going to be opening me up. So I allowed myself into this possibility of being completely opened up by these two cars which are coming and going. And let me just open myself up. Uh, The more I did that, I started to tap into the very flow of these two cars itself. I'm just sticking with this example, it's easier to speak. With these two cars, one comes from the front, one comes from the back, you're stuck in the middle, you surrender, you allow this to kind of happen. Okay, you just allow this to happen. The only fear there is out here is that you will be exposed. When I could start to see that, in the beginning, it's just that you're afraid of being exposed. You're not aware that you're afraid of being exposed. The first step is you're just afraid. You don't even know why, you're just afraid. But if you can tap into your medium, you'll be able to have a little bit more clarity. And with a little bit more meditation or some any practices, you would be able to get it more easily. Is when these cars are coming, they're opening me up. Now, when I could be in a state where I could at least notice that much, I was like, okay, so I'm being afraid of the sound of these cars opening me up completely. Next step, I got more and more stable into that state. I was like, okay, let it happen, let's proceed with it. Once they kind of open me up like this, what am I really afraid of? When I kind of got to this state about what am I afraid of, you are already not in the fear, you're a step behind it, because you're able to see that the elements outside of you, that is in this example, the two cars are opening something up, but that is not you. That is how you're able to see that it's opening something up, but that's outside of you. The thing which is being opened up is outside of you. You're already outside being afraid. You're already one step uh, away from being a victim, is what I wanted to say. So when you're able to come to this level, you're already very, 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 close. So now let's investigate this further. I was scared of being opened up, right? So now these cars are opening this person up. Again, now it's come down to this person because it's away from me. The cars are opening this person up. As they open this person up, there is something inside that this person is afraid of being discovered. There is something inside that this person is afraid of the world knowing about it or discovering about it. Now, the first thing which I found while this happened was a serious sense of lack of self worth. That was the outer crust which I found. That as these cars are moving and opening this person up, this person is afraid to let that happen because the person feels that what the cars will open up, this person is unworthy of becoming that thing which will be found inside. So if you are to sit in that state and kind of get comfortable in that state, and what is the way to get comfortable in that state is that whatever is going to be discovered from the inside, I feel unworthy of it in some way, right? Let me just sit with it. Let me sit with it long enough till the point that I am fine with being unworthy of what I am about to find. I might find nothing inside. I might find a penny or I might find $1,000,000. Whatever it is, it does not matter. I might be unworthy of it. It's okay. But I want to know what it is inside. When I stabilize into this state, the outer layer of the unworthiness slowly became normal. I'm not saying it disappeared. I'm saying that became okay. It became okay to feel unworthy of what you're about to discover. inside of you. It became okay to be unworthy of it. So once that happened, I could see that the trembling stopped. Like there was this serious energy, which was kind of, I would say crippling. You feel crippled because you're trying to stop yourself from discovering that. So everything cripples out. So once I became fine with being unworthy itself, I became fine with these hands being crippled. And when I became fine with these hands being crippled, the tension which is fueling these crippled hands is not there. And when the tension which is fueling these crippled hands is not there, then you're just fine with having these crippled hands. Now, these crippled hands are just relaxed hands. They're folded, but they're relaxed. And if they're relaxed, you don't really feel them as crippled anymore. You just feel them that he's folding his fingers, as opposed to being crippled. So this is what I mean by being comfortable in that state, is that now they're folded hands, and you're fine with it. And you can reach this state where you're fine with it, fine with whatever that you find, either guilt, shame, unworthiness. So any of these lower level feelings is what might come up. When you're becoming fine with that, is when you're kind of ready to go a layer into the nightmare, go a layer into the fear. Because now that you're fine with it, you're fine with being afraid. That's what I mean. You're right now fine with being afraid. You're not afraid of being afraid. You're okay with being afraid. Now, when you kind of go in, that is kind of where I found that in that so-called code, which I was trying to protect, was a person who was beyond sound and silence. Like the whole of sound was inside this one nucleus. And I could see that my higher self is out there. Like my higher self is out there. The higher self in me who is beyond sound and silence. Now, what does that mean? Now, generally, when we say sound, we are kind of referring to the absence of silence. It's silent, and then someone makes a clap. You say that sound. So, what exactly was that sound? Like if I clap, what exactly is it? It's just that the absence of sound was now broken by your clap, by your sound. So I could see a person who's beyond this polarity. I could see the person was way beyond this polarity, which means the sound and the lack of it, or the absence of it. This person was beyond both. This person was at the very core of the source of soundlessness itself. Now, soundlessness does not mean silence. Soundlessness means that that state is beyond the polarization of silence and noise, is beyond the polarization of absence of activity against noise, right? Or sound or something. Yeah, when you have activity, there is sound, there is noise, there is some form of movement. So I could see that this person is beyond the activity, that is noise or sound, and the lack of activity, that is silence or stillness. This person was a step behind both of them. So this person had the creative energy or the creative abilities to create both, to create silence and to create sound. This person was a designer. When I could see that, I realized that this is what I was trying to protect. This is what I was feeling unworthy of. I was feeling unworthy of discovering this higher self in me. This higher self who was so high that he was beyond both of it. And me, as my so-called minuscule, afraid self, was afraid of ever having to become this higher person, of ever having to become this person who has this potential. Why? Because with potential comes responsibility as well. So When I started to see this, I realized that, okay, I have this higher self inside me who's beyond sound and who's beyond silence as well. And I see it in front of me. I see it like something I have never, like something I just couldn't unsee. I could see it, and I could see that it's me. I could just see it. It's not that I'm confronting me. It was more like a tree coming down. It was more like, okay, you've got your roots out here, and then you've got your branches. I mean, sorry, you've got your stem out here, your tree trunk, right? And then you've got your roots coming down. So I could see that the very tree trunk is this high level, higher self of mine, and then it's like coming out into these little roots. And my lower self, was sticking out in one of these roots and was just looking up and seeing this magnanimous tree or this tree trunk in front of me, and I could see that that is where I came from. That's the so-called minuscule self which I was identifying myself with, came from this beautiful tree trunk, which is beyond sound and silence. And that is when it actually dawned upon me that, okay, the reason why my nightmares or my fears were always sonic in nature, or that I was always hearing things, is because this higher self of mine, this tree trunk, is made of sound and silence, and is beyond both. So it is obvious that when this higher self wants to communicate with the minuscule lower self that I was attaching myself to, this higher self is going to communicate through sound and silence. So when this higher self was communicating to me with sound and silence, now really let's get into this. This is very interesting. When this higher self is communicating to me with sound and with silence, why was I getting nightmares? I was getting nightmares because this higher self is communicating with me in a singular way. Remember what I said, that this higher self is beyond the polarity of silence and sound, or silence and noise. So this higher self will not communicate with a word, because a word or an actual sound itself is only one part of it. And because this higher self is singular in nature, it will communicate with both at the same time, which means it will communicate with silence and sound at the same time. And by the time that information kind of reached to my lower self, it comes to me as pure silence, that is the depths of what you would call something in outer space, something in like absolute silence that we can imagine, imaginable silence. I'm now referring to imaginable silence close to a black hole, maybe, where all the light is gone, everything's absolutely pristine and dark in the midst of the night sky. So such kind of silence is so scary to the lower self of ours. It's extremely scary because that means lack of existence. And the sounds that this higher self was producing was coming in union with this pristine silence, with this creative silence. That is the birth of the universe kind of silence. That was the first light kind of silence. So when both of these are coming together, it's literally tearing this lower self of mine apart. It's tearing it apart because in order to consume that information from the higher self, this lower self must go right to the very depths of what is the source of both sound and silence. And this lower self was experiencing that as nightmares in the sonic realm. That is why these cars were kind of going, tearing this person apart, tearing me apart, because as they're coming in, sound and silence are both just intertwining with each other and crushing you to tell you that come up, come up, let go, let go of being small, let go of being minuscule, let go of meaning, of being this speck, this speck of dust. Let go of being that and just come up, come up, come up to this beautiful space that we're in. And it's taken a lot of years to kind of be able to word it this way, but that is what this higher self was calling me to. And yeah, I mean, long story short, when that did happen and when that so-called sensation did stabilize in me, that this higher self is what I'm, associating myself with, I let go of the lower. Not easy at all, but yeah, happened over time. And that's kind of how I got filled with passion for sound, music, and have decided to dedicate, not even decided, it's just so natural that you don't decide anything. You're just living that higher self, and you're just living the reality that that self is creating. That self is creating a reality which is completely sonic in nature, which is what I absolutely want. I want my reality to be sonic in nature. I want it to be musical in nature. I want it to be around music. I do not want to do something else to have to be able to do this. I want this to dictate the rest of the activities. Now, this is something very personal to me. Your experience is going to be very, very, very personal to you. It's not going to be the same. It's going to be very, very, very personal and very, very, very different. So unique because you are absolutely unique. So it's going to be something extremely unique to you. And why I kind of took through this journey is to emphasize on the fact that whatever you're being scared of, whatever is the nightmares that you're having, whatever is the hellish fears that you have, or whatever is the voice inside you which is, making you be small or live small, be minuscule, try to track that voice, try to understand the medium that it's speaking to you in. Because I don't want to say a lot of times, almost all the times, it is your own higher self from the future sending out messages to you to be like, man, just wake up, like, yeah, we've got greatness to achieve. And what are you doing out there? Sitting in your minuscule self, giving yourself self pity and asking for it from others while you are so great, you are so magnanimous, you are so amazing, and you're just wasting time being small, wasting time working for someone else, wasting time being someone that you're not meant to be. So it isn't anybody from the outside telling you all that. It's your higher self trying to communicate with you. And the only way that you're going to be able to communicate in the best way with your higher self is by finding your own medium. It's by finding the way in which you're able to get to that. For some people, as I said, it's visual. For some people, it's highly visual. For some people, it might be something totally different. It might be touch oriented. And I'm only speaking of the senses which I'm aware of. There's going to be so many that I have no idea about, and it could be so unique to you that only you could probably explain it. Because you know what? We're all multidimensional beings, and remember this: your higher self is always multidimensional. So the way it communicates with you is something going to be so unique that you would not be able to, fathom it, or the others won't be able to fathom it. Like the sound and silence and soundlessness, it's not a sense that we generally have in our so-called earthly reality. We don't live with soundlessness. We live in extreme noise around us, and we live in a space where we get a little bit of a break from that noise, which we refer to as silence, but it's actually not, right? Like, so the state of so-called soundlessness is not something that you find on Earth, at least in our times right now. We don't actually find this. So what I came across and have taken up is a higher self, which is very unique to me. And you're going to find it in the same way. You're going to find something so beautiful, so unique, and you're going to come down here and share it with the rest of us. And yeah, so that's kind of how you can use your nightmares to figure out your deepest passions, and that which satisfies you on a level which nothing else can, because nothing else has the ability to be so all encompassing. So that's about it. That's what I wanted to share. And I feel content at the end of it. And yes, I guess we'll stop it here. And if you do want to check out what I do, you can go on my website, ticklemewet.com, and also check out some of the investment portals that we operate for artists, creatives, to be able to continue to pursue their dreams without giving up or without having to take up what the world calls as a job. So yeah, that's about it. And you can get in touch with me if any of my works do interest you. And I will see you soon in another live. Take care till then. Bye for now.